Good evening. Tonight's meeting of the Arlington School Committee is being conducted via Zoom, is being recorded, and is also being simultaneously broadcast on ACMi. Because we have one member who is not with us tonight, that is Ms. Exton, but the remainder are with us. If Ms. Exton should join us, we would be a remote meeting, and we'll be required to take all votes by roll call, but as long as we don't have a seventh member on the screen, we can proceed under the normal rules of voting by voice unless a roll call is required. This is a reminder that persons wishing to join the meeting by Zoom may find information on how to do so on the town's website. Persons participating by Zoom are reminded that they may be visible to others. All participants are asked to activate cameras and provide full name in the interest of developing a record of the meeting. All participants are advised that people may be listening who do not provide comment, and those persons are not required to identify themselves. Finally, both Zoom participants and people watching on ACMi can follow the posted agenda materials, also found on the town's website, using the Novus Agenda platform. We begin with public comment. Individuals or group representatives may address the committee on items of school business. The length of the participation segment shall normally be no more than 20 minutes. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address, and will be allowed up to 3 minutes to present their material. The chairperson may reduce speaking time if needed and or may permit an extension of the time limit. Speakers may offer such objective criticism of the school operations and programs as concern them, but in public session, the committee will not hear personal complaints about school personnel, nor against any member of the school community except for the school committee or the superintendent in their capacity as the operational leader of the Arlington Public Schools. Under most circumstances, administrative channels are the proper means for the disposition of legitimate complaints involving staff members. The public is reminded that the school committee does not hold jurisdiction over the performance of school personnel other than the superintendent. So we will begin with Patricia Misuro, who is first up.
Hello, everyone. I have 3 minutes, and as you all have seen, we sent a presentation from the parents. So we hope you take the time, not perhaps now, but after this, to review it. I will just talk about one thing that's pressing, which is the APS high school, the draft that's to be approved, I believe, today about the curricula. I did see comments back when I sent an email pointing out that the changes by the math director are not incorporated into the curricula for the 9th graders and beyond in math. I did see the fact that you can double up, but the nuance is that you can only double up 10th grade and higher. And the curricula in that draft in 2025-26 does not have the plan changes for 9th grade and up, and as well as other pathways. So I believe that's to be started in 2025-26. Please look at that in depth. The other topic that's in this deck, and I do really appreciate the parents went to the high school. It's incredible. So we would really appreciate for you to incorporate that into the draft. The other piece that I have is in the deck that you have in front of you, as well as Gayatri sent it out. I will talk a little bit about some of the analytical work that we've done on looking at the students in Arlington. So if you look at slide 7, it talks about the number of students that are in the group so-called exceeding expectations based on MCAS. That's like the very top group of parents. And along each year, and you can see how many students. If you look back at the size of the class, so if you really want these students to feel challenged, you would match their needs with what the classes are offered. And you look at every year in Arlington, which is one of the graphs here, you see how many students are there. So we would strongly encourage to go back to especially at the grades 5, 6, 7, I mean, every single grade, to consider sizing and appropriately suiting the class, the more advanced math path. So we have a slide 8 as well, which kind of summarizes this past year's fifth graders, which is how it all started. As 92 of those fifth graders, 18% have exceeding expectations. They're very top tier. And then if you compare it with the number of students allowed into that bypass class, which is only 3% of the student body, that means 77 students which have the high potential were not being allocated space for. Hello? I think my voice seemed to go in and out with the speaker. So we also have some statistics around the, well, I did not expect to have time for the whole thing, but
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think what happened is that they were adjusting the modulation because it was a little over-modulated at the beginning, so you're sounding better now. Next up was Gayatri Perlin.
Thanks for the time. Happy New Year, everyone. I have to tell you that I'm super energized and recharged, not only by the holiday break, but by last night's AHS incoming student presentation that a number of us went to. You guys, I mean, I have to say this community is so great. I'm really grateful to be a part of it. And you guys have done such a good job at the high school. I went home to my husband and said, wow, I can't wait for our kids to go there. Let's just skip everything else in between and jump start. But as Patricia mentioned, you know, we've been very passionately pushing this math pathways, not because, you know, we want to take away opportunity from anyone. We want everyone to be successful in paths that they choose. As I mentioned in the past, there is a real economic driver for increasing and modernizing our math pathways. I see it every day in the workplace. As I mentioned, I'm a researcher in the Department of Defense world, and there's a real dearth of critical thinking skills. And we strongly believe this pressure is not about getting into MIT. Really, it isn't. What we're really hoping to achieve is that everyone who wants to and needs acceleration has the opportunity to develop strong, very strong critical thinking skills, which it's been known that math is a pathway to that for all disciplines. And you can go through the presentation on your own time. We all know the limitations of the existing pathways as well as the proposed pathways, but what we've done is actually come up with a set of pathways that would really allow a modernization path which is equitable for everyone, right? Let's raise the bar and include everyone who is interested. You see the number of students in the data that we provided across the board. Arlington is doing very, very well. You know, let's not focus on the Lexingtons and the Belmonts. I'm very happy with where Arlington is. But that being said, there's still a huge cohort of kids that would benefit from other pathways. Right now, we're making this bypass exam and pathways an exclusive club. Let's not do that. Let's allow everyone who needs it to be included. As we know, heterogeneous models are maybe good for equity. I don't have data explicitly showing it. We have one data point that we outline, but I can imagine that pathways would actually might be a better model when combined with the fact that teachers can really focus on high-needs students and really have the bandwidth to focus on those students. And then those students can at any point, with our proposed pathways, at any point join a more aggressive pathway as they choose. So what we've really outlined is not only what we want, but really what's best for all involved.
Thank you. Dennis Grodkowski.
Thank you, Dennis Grodkowski, 57 Wollaston Avenue, number 2. Happy New Year. So I want to respond to the previous presented pathways, continuing with the math pathway conversation. referencing the slide 5, which was the proposed pathway a few months ago. That included doubling up of classes in 10th grade, summer school between 10th or 11th and 12th, possibly doubling up of classes in the 12th grade, along with the physics and the calculus, which is some of the goals. When I looked at that pathway, I'm a visual person, so when I looked at it, it looked like the school year got really congested. The high school became very congested and almost over-programmed. Continuous and even extending into the summer becomes almost like a continuous school year all year round, no summer. It's not a good solution. It compromises the summer work opportunities, SAT and college prep, socializing, relaxation. It demands more of the school and the staff than potentially necessary based on the other alternate pathways that were shared. It may also be deterrent for those who cannot attend summer class for a host of reasons. In my opinion, these math subjects are deep in content and cannot be effectively deployed in a summer. I would be curious to understand if those classes would be, a few hours a day, all day, every day of the week. Attempting to cram the material into a summer doesn't seem to be ideal, and it becomes a burden. It seems like the congestion is caused maybe by delaying the potential teaching of material earlier in the student's career, as the enrollment in recent bypass tests was high, and as we see students that are exceeding expectations are on an upward trend according to the MCAS 2024 math data. It seems that there is a natural demand and readiness for this material for a growing cohort of students. To relieve the congested high school proposal, I hope that the district will consider how curriculum can be distributed earlier in the academic program to introduce young learners to material, perhaps in a slower but longer duration to reduce the challenge and ultimately avoid the crowding of what should be a joyful time of planning for future endeavors like college and working or having fun. Instead of being in school all year long due to this misidentification of gifted learners, I would suggest we provide advanced pathways in elementary grades, starting at 3rd grade for those who are ready. Knowing my older kids who excel in their classes, and seeing my 7-year-old who can grasp various math, language, music concepts, watching my oldest son playing his viola in Boston Symphony's Hall, it's clear to me that students of all ages have a lot of potential that goes unrealized and can be realized through challenge and exposure. Through that exposure and challenge, the potential becomes realized and real. My older kids are not being challenged the way they could be in the APS math program, and I ask that we improve the way we allow students to access the classes appropriate for them so their learning experience is enjoyable and challenging. Thank you.
Federico Fraschetti will be next, followed by Ash Gutba, who is possibly remote. So if train's going through. So if we can get Ash available when Mr. Fraschetti is done. Mr. Fraschetti, it's your 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thanks again for giving us the opportunity. So Federico Fraschetti, 223 Highland Avenue, Arlington, 02476. So I'd like to cover 2 topics following approximately the presentation I've sent. One is the digital literacy at APS, and another one is the alignment of the Massachusetts standards with what was presented back in December as an APS mission statement and math department goals. So I'm just scrolling here. So I have just a few questions. So how the unsupervised use of the Chromebook, which gives free access to students to any unfiltered online material that can be posted by anyone in the world, can support education or even can be of any benefits for kids of 12 years old. So I'm asking this. Then I have a second question. Is YouTube and DEC approved the teaching platform? Because if there is no need of a formal DEC approval, I'm wondering if it has been proven that it facilitates or improves the learning. Certainly is going to make thinner the bonding between teacher and students. I've seen that. But also the MCAS scores both in LA and math dropped since 2019. That's overall in Massachusetts. It's in the plot I've sent. That certainly started with COVID, but didn't come back to the level pre-COVID. So, and I was told by Dr. Browner that the digital platform, which are used now, and been mostly updated since the COVID. So this method has been continuing and didn't come back to what was pre-COVID. Okay. Parents complained about this with APS, and including me, but we have been asked by APS to meet separately with administrators, even if we have common shared issues. Okay, this is one thing. The other thing is that the fragmented learning, which consists in jumping from one serendipitously from one YouTube video to another one, seems legitimate according to APS to replace the learning from textbook, which stay there. Okay, and then I had also another estimate of the economic impact and also impact on families. Then I made a few comments about specific words in the mission statement of APS, but what I want to say here is that I have the impression, looking what my daughter has been doing, I open Google Classroom weekly, or if not daily, and see what they do. I see the weekly homework, which is 16 exercise per week, and I compare this with the content of the Massachusetts standards. And we are more or less now halfway in the school year, and I don't see many of the things which are discussed in the Massachusetts standards. I don't see them here. I put some details here. I have no time now to go through, but I don't see this there. So I would like, if possible, to contribute to this. Thank you.
Next up will be Ash Gupta, and I see you on my screen, if we can bring him up.
The middle.
He's in the top.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Name and address for the record, please, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Ash Gupta. My address is 161 Silver Street, Arlington. First of all, Happy New Year to all the everyone. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak in tonight's school committee meeting. I would like to raise my concern regarding the proposed AHS program of studies for math pathways for upcoming 2025-2026 school year, which will be presented in the meeting later today. The draft high school program of studies posted in the meeting agenda has currently no option to allow doubling up in math, which means taking up Algebra 2 and Geometry together in the 9th grade, which is in contradiction with what was proposal presented by the math director to the school committee, which said that this will take effect into the upcoming school year, which means in 2025-2026, not in later years. And current program of studies, which will be presented today, has only option to allow doubling up from 10th grade onwards, and not in the 9th grade. And that's my concern. Given this, I beg you to expedite the implementation of doubling up in math option for the 9th graders in the upcoming school year, so that the current middle schoolers who have been denied their request for doubling up in math in all of their middle school can feel challenged in the high school and can enjoy their experience in the high school, which wasn't as fulfilling during their middle school years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that concludes public comment for the night. Let me do some introductions of the folks who are with us. And Sif Ferrante is our AEA representative. She is visiting with us remotely.
I am. Just a correction.
Safe.
It's C. Ferranti.
Sif.
Thank you.
Sif. Yeah. And Leo Frisch and Zach Fan are our student representatives. And so what's happening at the high school?
So first of all, our sports are doing exceptionally well this year. Do you want to talk about track?
Oh yeah, especially track is one of the best seasons so far, and we beat Lexington, which seemed pretty much impossible, but
We even beat them in how many, a decade or two
Yeah.
at least.
exciting.
Basketball, hockey, swim, boys and girls, all have winning records, and wrestling is undefeated. So we're pretty much clean sweep for sports. We have the 18th annual Battle of the Bands, hosted by Student Council, happening on January 17th, and the Drama Guild has been hosting student-led plays called One Acts for the past 3 days.
Then also I don't know if you guys are familiar with the winter survival trips.
Oh,
That
yeah.
It's starting this weekend, and it's also, I took the class last year, and it's the best class you can take at Arlington, so.
It's going to be a particularly cold weekend for that, too. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. We continue on to Arlington High, Scott Darlington introduction, interim AHS assistant principal. Superintendent.
I will more or less hand this off to the high school because I know that's our next agenda item as well. But they are here to introduce somebody new to the team who will be filling in for Mr. McCarthy while he studies deeper learning all over the country with his family. So go ahead, Matt.
We are thrilled that Mr. McCarthy's leaving us. Not because we don't want him around, but because he's going to be taking a well-deserved sabbatical, which is a wonderful opportunity that the district offers. And he's going to be traveling the country, studying deeper learning around a lot of different school and high school sites and bringing that back to try to develop his instructional vision and then bring that back to us. We're really excited about that. Plus, we're interested in how he's going to drive his enormous vehicle across the country. So in order to have him do that, we were all in a state of panic for a very long time because filling his shoes was a pretty big task, but we were very fortunate that Scott Darlington, formerly assistant principal in Andover, is joining us this spring, and I guess I'll let him say a few words. They're like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the two of them running around the school already, so we're feeling pretty confident that we're in good hands.
You're going to need a more flattering.
Frickin' frack.
That's not working either.
Yeah, because whoever's not D is dumb, and we don't want that. Go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself, Scott Darlington. I started my teaching career out in Hudson, Massachusetts in 1998, and I taught film and TV production there for 18 years. And then prior to this year, for the last 8 years, I've served as assistant principal of Andover High School. And I think Mr. McCarthy is doing a better job of dealing with maybe being in the same position for a long time. I resigned and took a brief break and been very excited to find this interim position. It seems like a great community, excellent high school. Just in following Mr. McCarthy around, I'm going to try to fill one of his shoes because it's going to be hard to fill both of his shoes, but I am excited for that opportunity and just very excited to join the community.
Welcome with the team.
And I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to take a sabbatical. Looking forward to it. I've been in touch with some high schools and junior highs across the country, and I'm looking forward to bringing learning and educating myself in different forms and bringing it back here to the school. So thank you.
We had a high school principal here in the past whose name was Charlie Skidmore. His middle name was Arlington. He was Charles Arlington Skidmore, which was an interesting thing to see on the resume. And now Mr. Darlington has a troublesome D. So maybe over the course of the next 6 months, we can get rid of that. But welcome, welcome. Any questions or comments from the committee before we go to the high school program of studies? Hearing none. Dr. Jenger.
Am I pulling up these slides?
So, so you all received the updates, new courses form, which is an addendum we attach with the program of studies. Just to run through these items very quickly. I know there are probably some that we do want to have a little conversation about, so I'm going to move over to the courses section first and discuss the new courses and course adjustments. The new courses, as you are aware, our Performing Arts and Visual Arts Department moved into the new facility, and as they've continued to expand into those facilities and try new items, we've been able to explore new courses. On February 17th, we will take ownership of the new athletics and performing arts wing of the school, so we're looking forward to that. As part of that, we are trying to expand the performing arts opportunities, including using the Black Box Theater and outside amphitheater. And so we see classes such as playwriting and directing, and as our student representative said earlier, the one-acts are going on right now, so if you pop over to the high school, you can see those. Those are student plays that were written and directed, so we are looking to expand upon that program. We also are continuing to expand our music and video production classes, and the visual arts department is expanding exponentially as all the classes have continued to fill, and we're very excited about that. There are some course changes. You'll notice the first one is race, class, gender, and society. We are taking our gender and society course and our race and society course, and we are combining them. Our goal is to offer that as a full-year course across the year as opposed to 2-semester courses, so students can actually study the sociology across all of these items and how they interact with one another. We do have some additional course changes towards the bottom. You will notice that meteorology is new in place of weather and climate. Another one is the pre-calculus courses will be adjusting. We will actually be taking pre-calculus, and students will have the opportunity to take pre-calculus honors plus or pre-calculus honors. What that means is they are offered at the same level. They are both honors classes. They are both pre-calculus. Pre-calculus plus will be driven more towards students who are interested in studying AP Calculus BC, whereas pre-calculus honors will be more for students who want to take AP Calculus AB. We are still tweaking the names on that a little bit, but we wanted to make sure that people understood they are the same course. It's just they are driven to 2 different AP courses that students can take. We are reactivating several courses, including relaxation, entomology, drawing, and painting, which drawing and painting have existed. All these have existed in the past. We are bringing them back as part of our cycle, which we often do. And we are cycling off of physiology, exercise and activity, oceanography, advanced robotics, and independent study computer science. You'll remember we offer those. We will not offer those this year. We'll offer them next year. And so we continue that rotation. We are saying goodbye to several classes. Many of them are in the Performing Arts Department. That is part of us moving into our new facility. We are looking to restart the programs and make use of our new facilities. If you go back up to policy and general information, Performing Arts Department will be following in suit with the Visual Arts Department, which made their change last year and will be becoming honors for all. The classes offered at the Performing Arts Department will be honors. We will be moving away from the Curriculum A or advanced curriculum of those offerings. We do have the MCAS competency determination. Dr. Jagger, you want to speak a little bit about that?
So I guess I'm going to defer a little bit to the school committee in terms of how you want to run that conversation. So right now in the program of studies, it simply says, we're going to talk about that later. You have this proposal. And so I don't know that I want to go back and forth between the 2 of them.
Yeah.
So we have a proposal for language, which I'm happy to discuss in the order you want to.
I think that the intent would be to take the competency determination language into the subcommittee first before it reaches the desk of the full committee.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's on the 17th.
So at this stage in the program of studies, it'll say pending school committee approval as we work through that.
I think ideally, though, we'd be in a position where we could approve both of those on the 23rd in one neat little package, but who knows?
17th.
I'll make sure it's on your calendar. It's next week on Friday.
We'll talk. Okay.
Mr. Schuckman?
Dr. Allison Nappy.
I don't think we have the competency, proposed competency requirements.
I had shared it with the committee earlier this week.
Okay, it's not in Novus then?
It's not in Novus. It's
No.
not ready for prime time.
No, okay, thank you.
Okay. So the other just things that are in this program of studies, which actually did come up earlier. So after we did the freshman parent night, we always find little inconsistencies in language when people get into it. So if you look in the program of studies, the math acceleration pathway table shows the possibility of doubling up in geometry and algebra in 9th grade or in 10th grade.
What page are you on?
Page.
37, 38. I think the link
we
doesn't
on?
work in the
have
PDF.
the whole
That's
book.
part of the problem.
Yeah, third.
Is it in here? So if you, look at, page
36, I think.
9 of this packet, right. So there are two places where this is discussed in the program of studies, which I don't have right in front of me. There's a table, which is on page 8 of your summary package. It says sample pathways. And then there's language, which is, you'd have to find it in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure
I
what
don't
summary,
We
what
don't
the
have a
summary
summary
package
page.
is.
Is that-
It's the updates.
We
What I'm
have
reading from, updates and courses.
the new.
So this updates and new courses packet?
I don't see that in Novus.
We didn't get that into Novus, and I don't remember seeing it either.
Okay, hang on one second.
I can pull it up and we can get it into Novus, but I'm not sure that I have it.
I will find it for you either way. Hang on.
That would be helpful.
Anyway, it's an error that needs to be adjusted because it's an inconsistency in the language, which may have led to some of the confusion.
Would you share with me, Dr. Jenker? I'll pull it up.
You want to share with her this document, and I'll find it in the program studies. Why is it not coming up? If I'm looking for sample.
It's underneath math curriculum, underneath the chart.
It's not searching in there. Sorry, it's a big document.
Great, got it.
Okay, here we go, mathematics and computer science. Page.
Page 35. The chart, it's a link. From the document, the one that's sample.
All right, so if you look under mathematics and computer science, where's the language piece? It says what you can do. That was the one. I see. All right, so that is on page 35, sorry.
So if you go to page 35.
Look
on
in.
program studies, yeah.
On the program of studies.
But that doesn't work from the link doesn't work from the PDF.
That's the update. So on the update form, it starts on page, the chart is on page 9. So if you scroll through, it's the same document. There, that is the chart we're discussing.
Right, so in the language that is elsewhere in the document, it says that you can only double up in 10th grade, but in the chart, that was not our intent. So this is a more, which I of course can't see now, that is a more accurate depiction of the different pathways. And so students coming, basically, if you want to sort of think big picture, the high school pathway, right, is algebra, geometry, algebra 2, right? So students getting into advanced math are generally students doing algebra in 8th grade, so that they're then doing geometry, algebra 2, and are able to do pre-calculus and calculus before their senior year. We have a small cohort of students who are accelerating past that, which is why we added the Physics C, because we opened the option because we had students that could do that. So we have worked to create options as a general goal of getting students to what we consider advanced high school math, which is calculus by 12th grade. And so the pathways were, 1, to double up on geometry and algebra in 10th grade, and 2, to be able to take the summer pre-calculus course. Because that way our core program was intact, students were getting consistent instruction there, but they could accelerate in order to reach calculus by their senior year. We now have a desire by some folks who are not on that pathway to hit pre-calculus Physics C to also be able to accelerate. So we're opening up the pathway for students coming out of 8th grade algebra to double up in geometry and algebra 2. We need to clean up that language in the program of studies because there's a couple places where that's not consistent. I do want to say this because we're in here and I said this to the parents. The fact that we make these things possible for students does not necessarily mean that we think that they are necessary or advisable for a student to have a really strong educational program, right? It's already Arlington has a significantly, when you look at our MCAS scores, and there's some conversation about how our MCAS scores show that students are ready for advanced math, taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade is considered to be an advanced mathematics pathway. And taking calculus by senior year is considered to be an advanced mathematics pathway. It is always possible that there is a student or situation who knows more and is getting to go way beyond that, but that's a pretty rare thing. And we don't want, by creating the possibility to be flexible, to create an expectation or desire on the part of folks. Because at the same time, there's a lot of other wonderful things one can do in the high school to deepen and enrich their learning, other than moving on that pathway. And so, you know, a lot of what we've generally recommended to folks interested in deeper and more math study has always been to go sideways, right? To look at other sorts of math study that deepens and enriches your math study without moving you through. The analogy would be, we don't recommend reading ahead in the English books because then you're just going to know what happened. So it's kind of a spoiler alert. You can save that math content while doing other rich and deep math content. But it's an option, and we're happy to have that option. And I'm glad that we've kind of streamlined things, because there are students who are going to come to this later on, and we don't want to create tracks as much as we can that foreclose students' options. But that I just want to clarify is what's supposed to be the pathway, and we need to clarify the language elsewhere.
Ms. Morgan?
So we need you need a row too for the students who just take Algebra 2 in 9th grade, unless it's on the next page, which it doesn't appear to be. So there needs to be one more row there, because there are students who take geometry in 8th grade.
Don't do well, yeah.
So you need a row that is, I don't know what color it's going to be, but it needs to be Algebra 2, pre-calc in 10th grade, calculus in 11th grade, and then whatever you want to do. And
You're missing a row for the students who take geometry in 8th.
There are 8th graders, those are the kids that are taking pre-calc.
so you need that row.
Yep.
I would also love to see a little, as somebody who teaches stats, I get everybody likes physics C and calc, but we do offer an AP stats class, and you seem to have some space in those boxes, so we can always, it's a perfectly reasonable pathway to take Algebra 2, to have done the bypass and do Algebra 2, pre-calc, BC Calc, and then take AP stats as a senior too.
Yes, and actually, one I actually think that we would more strongly recommend than the current pathway. Because I think it had to do with questions that people were asking as they were building this somewhat complicated framework. So yes, the reality is you can take as well in the upper classes stats, quantitative reasoning, linear algebra, and what's the other one? Number theory.
Physics C.
Right, and so that, and in order to give students a broader number of options, those have been there. And
I just like highlighting that in
Yes,
the,
no,
in
I
the,
agree
in
with
the
you. Those
advertising, right? Because
those should go
even
on the
that
table.
that first yellow row, you can take, because you don't need to take calc before you take stats. In fact, I believe that the prereq for AP stats is actually only Algebra 2. So you could actually take Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and then so that first
Right,
white
students
row,
take
you could actually take AP stats as a 12th grader, based on the prereqs
People
that are
take,
at the
and
book.
there are people who take AP stats as a junior. Yeah, so we will fill that in.
Thank you.
I can touch base with you after.
Mr. Carden?
So going back to the competency determination and the graduation requirements, I don't know when you're publishing this versus when we're, as a committee, approving that. But I don't think we should publish something that says graduation requirements pass MCAS exam. I mean, that's not going to be a graduation requirement, is it? Is that even under consideration?
It is an option, it's a local option,
Yeah.
but I can't imagine it would be one that we would recommend. We have done little change to this, understanding that the CD discussion is still underway, and so would be open, when we talk about this in CIAA, to striking, to putting in the program of studies that you officially approve any sort of hold language saying that we'll message for 25 afterwards, or making a recommendation based on our discussion next Friday, which we'll figure out scheduling for, so that we can pass it at the next meeting. But yeah, we'll look at the graduation requirement. We said don't make major changes to this while we consider that separately, so that we can change the program of studies.
I would anticipate CIAA would come to a conclusion both on this document and the program of studies with a recommendation of the full committee for the next meeting so we can resolve it. If there's an issue there, we may have to put a placeholder in, but I think that I don't think a proposal for a competency determination coming out of CIAA would be particularly controversial.
Great, thanks.
But just like worst case scenario, there is a pathway where we could approve the program of studies, so these folks can, do what the magic they need to do for kids to pick classes, right? And then we would basically need to pull all of the CD language out of the program of studies before we approved it, and then we could run that in a parallel process if we have to.
If we have to, yes. Thank you.
Any other?
That's
Mr.
what I want to know.
Thielman.
What is your deadline for the students to register? January, when do you need this approved by? The next meeting will be the second reading, so that's January, I don't even know what today is.
23rd.
So our current timeline is to aim for, sorry, I'm doing the math. I want to say February 10th.
Okay, so we meet again on the 23rd, you guys meet on the, so we have plenty of time.
Yeah.
So there's we're not up against a deadline for your registration.
This is our normal timeline. Yeah, we have this scheduled for January every year.
I would just ask if, obviously as this process continues, could I post the program of studies with the competency determination where we've noted it is pending school committee process, just so that people could see and access what the new courses are? Can I put the program of studies?
So my point is that on page 2, it says graduation requirements, number 1, pass MCAS exam with no asterisk or anything like that. So that would need to be modified.
I think you're asking for, if you're asking.
I think it says, I believe the reason, it says see below for explanation, and then when you see below for explanation, it says this is going to be changed.
But it still has
An asterisk seems like a good idea.
It still has pass the MCAS as the default, and we know that's going away. So I would favor actually deleting all the MCAS language and just say competency determination is pending.
I think that's fine.
Ms. Morgan.
But can we wait to do that until the 23rd at least? Or can you offer a list of, the thing is that once these start to go out, right, people start to be like, well, this is what it is, right? And you can write pending approval in 50 different magic marker colors over it, and people don't care, right? So it seems like either you can say, this is just the list of potentially new classes in its own document that doesn't look like a program of studies, right? Because we don't have an approved program of studies for 25-26 right now. We don't. So posting anything that's called the program of studies for 25-26, I wouldn't be in favor of doing. I think it's confusing. You could post a list of classes in a Word doc, right, that says we think these are the classes we're going to offer pending this approval. But I think starting to build out that page that does course registration and stuff, people don't know that it gets updated, and we have multiple meetings. We're going to meet on next Friday, or we've got to meet then, and then we've got to meet on the 23rd. So I don't like the idea of any program of studies being out there implying to students that this is close to what it's going to be like until we get through those 2 meetings personally.
So just so I can clarify, 1, I will go through the program of studies and I will take out the MCAS, the wording of the MCAS, and put a note in there. The note I currently have is, please note the MCAS competency determined section is currently under review of the school committee and district as we make adjustments to the new laws on this matter. I can take out all the other wording except for that note. And then, just for my own clarification, when, I don't know the timeline, I apologize, when is the next school committee meeting where this might be approved? I just want to make sure.
January 23rd.
Let me,
in 2 weeks.
Let me be clear on something and then pose a question to the high school folks. This is the way we do this every year. First meeting in January is always a first read. Second meeting in January is always an approval of the program of studies, and at that point, we publish it. We don't, it's my understanding that you don't have the authorization to publish the program of studies until we approve it. Now, if this is a timeline issue that is something we should be revisiting, and you'd like to advance the schedule so that we're looking at the first read of the program of studies at an earlier time, that's another story. Now, to publish a list of the possible courses that you're going to be offering without all the other program of study language in it, I don't think that's problematic.
So I am perfectly fine holding off on the program of studies. I just didn't know the date. So that would give us 2 weeks, plenty of time to put that out there for everyone to review. I would say in terms of timeline, just to correct it, usually it is given, it is proposed. There usually isn't 2 meetings where it is read and approved. It is usually just read and approved in 1 meeting. But I'm fine making that. Obviously, we have a lot of changes that need to happen. And we have 2 weeks where, assuming it is approved at the next meeting, we have until February, I believe, that we have 2 weeks by which I can get that information out to everyone. I just want to make sure people have enough information that they can choose the right courses. So we can definitely make
that's fine. I mean, and I think that we've tweaked the schedule so that we're doing a discussion today rather than the second meeting in January in recognition of the fact that you wouldn't be available for us then.
Yep.
But if, understand, we want this to work for the high school, and if the timeline should be adjusted next year as we go through this, if it makes it easier for the high school to go and present a program of studies and the course selections to start a little earlier in the process, we can entertain that. So just let us know, and I'm sure the committee would be agreeable. Dr. Allison Appy.
Are we open to questions in the program of studies now, or are we talking about something specific?
Are we done with the presentation, or is this a logical point for some questions?
I think it's fine. Can I just respond to what you just said?
Okay, go
about
ahead, and then
timelines?
I'll call on Dr. Allison Appy
Yeah.
with your questions.
So, yes, I think we would like to try to start pushing the program of studies a little earlier. This year, this is a little earlier than we have usually met. We've usually met more mid-January. We've done that in part because Bill isn't going to be here, but also in part because the team that's now working on doing scheduling was trying to advance the process so that we can get the schedule built earlier. So I think next year we can work on that. So I just want to make sure I understand that what we've agreed to. We're going to make the revisions based on this conversation for the second read on the 23rd.
Plus any revisions that might come out of the CIAA subcommittee meeting.
Right. We're going to talk in the CIAA subcommittee meeting about the competency determination and figure out what will go into that thing by the 23rd. And we can post, here's just a list of courses proposed for next year so that people can start to get themselves oriented to the 500 or so classes.
That's my understanding of where we should go.
Okay,
Is any member of the committee not comfortable with that progression? It's all clear. And Dr. Allison Appy, you have questions.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, thanks. So first, on page 20, English Language Arts, the table, I think the grade 9 class should be listed as heterogeneous, not having to, right now it's confusing. It would be confusing to me as a parent because I know from both reading the the descriptions and what we've talked about at this table that in grade 9, they're heterogeneous class with the ability to take either course A or honors level, but in grade 10, they're 2 separate classes. And the table looks the same for the 2 courses, and so I'd be confused. Okay, so that's one thing, and let me find the other one. Sorry, I've got too many windows open. Okay, so the other one is in history. I'm sorry, if you can go to the history and social studies, the table there too.
Can you give the page?
The problem was I was reading the red line, and so all my numbers are off. Give me a sec.
I think it's 30.
Yeah,
30 in the red line?
yes, no, it's 30 in the, yeah, it's page 29 and 30, yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to point out so that we're very clear that we're making a conscious decision about this, that our options for U.S. history for grade 11 are both U.S. History 2 or Honors U.S. History 2 or AP U.S. History or AP African American Studies, and that all of those would fulfill the graduation requirement. And I'm bringing this up because this came up last year, and also because the AP African American Studies has a very different take on the standards for U.S. history too. And I just want to be sure that we're all understanding that and making that decision explicitly. So,
Can I make another request just on that table she's talking about?
Ms. Morgan?
Is that all right?
yeah.
So can we make the history table look like the English table? Or make the English table is better, frankly. So can, the columns are all different, so if I'm trying to be like, oh, what am I taking from my English classes, and then what is my history experience gonna look like? They're all like in new places, so can we make the history table look like the English table? Because the English table is more clear.
I have a question.
Superintendent?
It might be for, I'm not sure who it's for, frankly. In heterogeneous classes, they are still choosing a level that they are in, that they are credited against, correct?
Correct.
Heterogeneous only describes the grouping model for the schedule.
Correct.
I actually don't know that I feel it's appropriate to change the English table to move that class into heterogeneous for that reason, because they're still selecting, when they make the selection for the course, which level they're going to take, and that impacts the tasks they're choosing as part of the class, as well as the credits going into their transcript. And to shift it to heterogeneous doesn't indicate that choice. And here, I would suggest taking that column out entirely. We could certainly make a note when we list the class that they are scheduled together, that the levels are scheduled together in a course and is therefore scheduled heterogeneously. But I think the table actually confuses some things by suggesting that A, H, and heterogeneous are actually separate things when in fact they're conflated. Does that make sense?
So that in that scenario, if you eliminated that column, memoir, poetry, and fiction creating literary forms would need to be in both the honors and the curriculum A columns for grade 12. Like those you would have to then take missing voices, other cultures, and plop it into both of those with some kind of asterisk next to it.
We can talk about what the formatting for that is, but that felt like a clearer designation only because they are still selecting a level.
So let me just think this through, just to make sure I understand what we're asking. So the table then would just say H and A, but the course description would still say heterogeneous, because what I'm selecting when I go into register for the class is Foundations of English, not Foundations of English H or A. When I go do my request, I select Foundations of English. I decide later whether I'm
they decide later if they're selecting H or A.
Right.
So they don't select H or A for ninth grade English now.
in the request.
Do they do that for the other heterogeneous classes?
Correct.
They do.
Yes.
No, they don't pick a level.
No, they don't, right.
Oh, they
It's the
select
same.
later
They select
after
later.
they see the syllabus and stuff.
Correct.
Okay. can we think about this together and
Yeah,
revision in the
that's
next
why we do
version?
things
I
in
just-
subcommittee. Dr. Allison Ampe.
I just want consistency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Understand that we will be doing this on the 17th at the CIAA meeting, and any member of the committee who has any comments, suggestions, tweaks, complaints, expressions of joy should either be at the meeting or send them to Ms. Morgan, who chairs the subcommittee. Any other questions, comments, or discussion on this item? Seeing none, we move on to school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friends.
Thank you.
Some really good stuff in there. Next up will be school committee budget priorities. This is the annual opportunity for school committee members to discuss their priorities for budget items for the 2026 school year. And I will, unless somebody wants to go first, I will entertain the chair of the budget subcommittee first if she so desires. Dr. Allison Ampe?
Okay. Not that my opinions weigh any more than anyone else's. So thinking about what we've seen over the past year and what we saw the superintendent present, the things which stand out to me are, as priorities, are to have staffing to serve additional enrollment growth, especially at the high school, middle school. Staffing to fulfill needs for special education. I'll come back to that in a minute. Recruiting and onboarding specialists. Thinking about it, I think that this could help us with teacher retention, in that my understanding is that how the first weeks of a job go make a significant difference in terms of how people feel about the job. This is just in general, and I would imagine it's even more so for teachers. It makes a big difference in how they feel about the job, how comfortable they feel, and their job satisfaction. And I think that that would ultimately help with retention and possibly recruitment, actually. So I think that's important. The Cartwheel Care contract, and perhaps increasing the number of spots depending on what we're told by our health department. And finally, I would hope that we can find some funding for ACMi somehow, and I don't know how we shoehorn that in, and I know that's not in one of the priorities yet, and there's a lot of detriment to that. So just to circle back to the staffing to fulfill the needs for special education. So I'm not sure if I've missed it for this budget cycle, but one thing that would have maybe helped, so I understand that the principals are in charge of the schools and are in charge of the programs that are at their schools and stuff, but I think it would also be helpful to get some overview of thoughts on the budget from the special education director, just because the principals are not special education specialists. And I just like a big picture, this is how our program is doing, and this is where we have needs and things. And I understand that doesn't exactly fit in our current budget process, but it's just when I was looking at the list of things and thinking about how we've come to do things this way or the other, that was something that I personally would have found helpful. And I realize that she has been reviewing all the requests and providing feedback and stuff, but we haven't been privy to this information. And so that's just one other thing. So.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Carden.
Thank you. I agree with Dr. Allison Ampe on most of the priorities. I think we do have needs at the high school as a result of the enrollment increase that we need to focus on. I think a lot of the other requests are difficult for us to analyze again, without input from the special education department and some of the other department heads. But I trust that that's part of the internal process as the initiatives are reviewed and prioritized. So it's hard for me to comment on a lot of them. I think to the extent that some of the individual ones make it into the budget, I'm going to want to see more support for strategically why we're doing those things. So obviously the enrollment increases are pretty clear. The Cartwell needs for mental health and other stuff that we're transferring from grants is pretty clear. But the other positions that have been proposed, we're going to be facing very tight budgets from now on. This is probably our last year where we have extra money to add stuff beyond enrollment, stuff tied to enrollment. So I think we need to be very, very strategic on what we're adding and why we're doing it and how specifically students are going to benefit from it. Thank you.
Mr. Thielman.
Yeah, so obviously staffing to enrollment is a necessity and a requirement. I have not gotten clarity on our maintenance needs. The principal came and spoke about, that we're understaffed in terms of maintenance workers, custodians at the high school in particular. I'm sure there's issues across the district, but I'm kind of concerned about the high school because it's a brand new building. We want to maintain it. We don't want to look back and say we didn't maintain a new building. And so I don't know if there's any way, Dr. Holman, to get some clarity on exactly what our staffing should be and get a good recommendation from you on that. That would be, that's something I would like clarified in the coming weeks.
Ms. Gittleson.
I think everything that other committee members have said already are all important. I think sort of broadly and how this gets done is a combination of new hires and I think like Mr. Cardin said, thinking strategically about what we have and what we're doing. But I do remain concerned about some of the equity concerns about the distribution of licensed librarians across the district, and would love, if it is possible, for every school to have one. And if not, we need to just think about whether we're distributing them the right way. And then sort of broadly, it seems like staffing support for SPED and mental health, social work, whether that's Cartwheel or more social workers, are all really important. And then finally, just based on some of the conversations we've had the last several meetings, whatever resources we need to support making the WIN block at the Gibbs function in a way that works better for all students. And I don't have a sense really of what that means budget-wise, but that is, for me, a priority in terms of how we think about how we distribute what we have and what little room we have for growth.
Excellent. Ms. Morgan.
So my biggest priority is around class size and student distribution in grades 6, 7, and 8. We saw some reports around what those classes look like. The disparity in class sizes is, in my opinion, totally unacceptable. That we have kids in classes of 25, 26. Yeah, sure, like the averages are fine, but the distribution of students with IEPs across those sections is, I think, is totally unacceptable. And I think it's not okay that as a parent, you become a parent and you're in a situation where you may be presented with a scenario where your child who receives push-in services, they're either in a class of 12 that meets during the same period, or they attend a class of 25 where they're receiving their push-in support. And that's just not acceptable to me. It came up from, Ms. Rubino asked for it at the Audison, the AEA is asking for it. I'm sure the special education department is asking for it, right? We have to do something, and that to me it is staffing to enrollment. We haven't staffed adequately in grades 6, 7, and 8 so that we can distribute our students with IEPs appropriately so that they aren't disproportionately in enormous classes. So that to me it's kind of my only priority in this budget, honestly, because I think it's expensive to try and fix it. I think it's hard to hire those folks, but I see the the enrollment data for 6, 7, and 8 as it's presented doesn't look scary, but once you pull those class size reports, the disparities to me are really unacceptable, and we need to do something about it. And I think it's both at the Audison and at the Gibbs. So that's my only budget priority, period.
Thank you. To my mind, there were a couple of things that, the one thing that hearing all the conversations, basically when we started opening the new high school building, we've had a lot of discussions about what sort of staffing is required to maintain a building of this size, and we are at a very small fraction of what has been recommended. I don't know if the numbers that were recommended are the ones that are correct, but from everything that I've heard, it seems like we don't have enough folks to do this building justice, and I think the taxpayers who put $291 million into this building are entitled to have it maintained, and if it takes us a couple of more custodial positions to do that, I think we need to do it. Staffing needs to reflect enrollment, and as the enrollment surge moves through the system, staffing levels need to move with the increased enrollment, so that as enrollments are decreasing in certain places, we need to reduce staffing there to make sure that we have enough resources to put the staffing where the students are. I also worry every time I hear the word social worker pop up, because there are so many unmet needs, and I think I would like to make sure that we are allocating social workers based on need rather than by formula, so that all students, regardless of which building they're in, are going to be eligible to receive the same level of services. But I think that we've made a lot of progress on the budget. The fact is this is a quick discussion, because I think that the proposals that we've been seeing in the past in the direction that we're going is appropriate, but certainly those would be important priorities from us as we're moving forward. Does any other member of the committee have a comment or suggestion? Do our student reps have anything to say about budgets and resources allocated to the high school? Go ahead.
I'll just say something. I know I spoke about this for the last meeting about the custodians and the need for just upkeeping. I just wanted to be more specific with like some examples in the school, especially I think when you're walking through the halls, it's very clear that it's a new building. But I think the biggest problem is within the bathrooms. And it is very frustrating knowing like how much was spent on the school, and how it's only been, 3 years, and how there's not a consistent floor where the bathrooms, where every like sink works or every door works, and it's just very, very frustrating. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that point. I don't really know that much about the special ed programs or any of that stuff, so I can't talk to that, but I definitely agree with Leo on that.
Thanks. You have an important perspective. You're in our building every day, and you see the teaching, you see the facilities, you see what we're doing, and that's why you're here. You're here to help us make a good decision. Anything else under the budget? Next will be first read for school committee meeting dates. We have, even though we do plan for 3 years in advance, we're required to approve next year's meeting at this time of the year. So this is a first read. The dates for the 2025-26 school year are part of that document. The other 2 years are advisory, obviously subject to change in circumstances. Please go forth and look at these, and if there are problems with those meeting dates that you see, we will vote them at the next meeting. Superintendent's goals. Dr. Homan, this is a first read.
Hold on 1 second. Okay. So these are goals for this school year, understanding that it's sort of the last half of the school year and into the fall. I've done a little bit of adjustment of some of the sort of highlighted indicators, which are the indicators that you rate me on at the end of the cycle. and a bit of reflection about what's driving the selection of the goals that I've written for the coming year. So this is laid out the same as it was last year with just a couple of adjustments, and then I'll go through each of the goals. It has the goal, the focus indicators aligned with that goal, description of some of the things that we anticipate will be part of that work, and then last year I provided outcomes and solely outcomes. And one of the things that became difficult about that was that sometimes the outcomes are sort of lagging the work that's happening, and it can be hard to see in outcomes because it doesn't draw a straight line from this action resulted in this outcome when those outcomes measures are often large and sort of indicative of lots of other things, whether or not that action actually impacted that outcome. So in addition to outcomes, there's evidence of progress as examples of artifacts that could be submitted as part of the review process. So there's both for each of the goals. There's a student learning goal that is focused on improving outcomes for students through implementation of curriculum and practices aligned with deeper learning, with a specific focus on middle school math, instructional practices, and structural and scheduling access and support and opportunities for students. This is aligned with a lot of the work we've talked about, some of the budget priorities you all just named, and is obviously ongoing and something we'll be really focused on as we head into next school year. Professional practice goal is focused on an explicit focus on operational infrastructure that supports instruction and developing approaches to creating accessible learning spaces that will include all of the necessary technology and modern and sustainable infrastructure and the staffing support that's necessary for such systems. So here I'm really sort of shifting the professional practice goal. It's been really focused on sort of building leadership capacity, building teacher leadership capacity, implementing some of the instructional work that we wanted to do, as well as the human systems for gaining energy around that work in the past several years. Here, it's shifting a bit towards a focus on making sure that the spaces that we have, the buildings that we have, and the way we build the schedule, the way we staff, the way we budget is really heavily focused on making sure that those things we've gotten started can sustain themselves. And so that goal is a little different than some of the ones that I've had for professional practice in the past. And is shifting a bit of focus in alignment with the goals for the district for this year. There are 2 district improvement goals, same as last year. One is focused on partnership and communication, and the other is focused on some of those operational adjustments I was talking about a moment ago. For communication and partnership, we want to implement some of the new expectations and systems for partnership and communication, pilot some new technologies that will allow for more two-way discussion, focus a little less on some of the one-way blasting, maybe try to streamline it, but really get clearer on what partnership looks like, how we build proposals in collaboration with families for making adjustments and gather their feedback. Implementing the protocols for communication and expectations we have in place, and streamlining more of our communications for ease of use and navigation, some of which is already underway. And then the last goal for district improvement is to plan for and start implementing some infrastructural and operational adjustments that support the implementation and sustainability of deeper learning system-wide. This includes the development of the APS Space and Technology Plan, implementation of a capital plan that does include some funds for AV, which we're looking forward to sharing with you once that's ready from the Capital Planning Committee. Making sure that we are developing our collaborations and maybe improving them with town facilities and technology departments on budget development and planning, because that's been an area of challenge because it kind of gets done separately. To your point, Mr. Thielman, about operations, and somebody else mentioned this too, I've talked to the facilities director, but they're not part of our budget planning process. And so I don't have a proposal for how many custodians we need for the high school. So that's an example of ways that we can improve some of our communication and decision-making to make sure that we can do some of the things that are in the strategic plan. We'd like to continue work to align procedures for financial assistance across some of the programs that fall under our umbrella, and make sure that we're being really consistent across all of our programs, including our enterprise programs. Get some new enrollment projections for future district-wide planning, make some really strategic moves in buffer zone assignment this year to really alleviate some pressure at Thompson. and submit a statement of interest to the MSBA for a rebuild of Odison Middle School, which you'll be hearing a lot more about in the next several weeks. So those things are, I think, sort of encompassed in also a bit in the professional practice goal. I'm happy to take any feedback and make any adjustments that the committee would like me to make.
Dr. Allison Ampe.
Thanks. So first, thank you. I like the format of this. I like the statement at the front that says, this year's goals are tightly aligned with 2024-25 district goals and feature a stronger focus on operational excellence. The one thing I would kind of like to see explicitly is for district improvement goal number 1, something about explicit teaching about and promulgation of email best practices. For example, not using a link in your communication to be the communication, and not forwarding emails, and just make sure that everyone is taught and maybe even has their emails checked every now and then to see how they're doing it. I understand that it sounds like you're trying to get away from sending as many emails and stuff, and that's great, but I think, I know that there must be these like lists of how to do this best, and can't we find that and make sure everybody else knows about it? And actually, we could probably use it too, but.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Morgan.
And just to add to what Dr. Allison Ampe, yes, like strong email communication and expectation of like responses, right?
Yeah.
We respond to students, we respond to students first, or at least in my school, the priority is responding to students, right? We always respond to students. We also respond to families, and we respond to parents, and so, yeah.
Anyone else? I just want to say I found this to be terrifically focused on logical next step associated with both the district goals and the strategic plan. So I was very pleased when I saw this. Next up will be superintendent's update.
Okay. So I wanted to provide a quick update on the PowerSchool security breach that I emailed the community about yesterday afternoon. And a portion of that email is here on the screen, so just to update everybody in case you missed it. We wrote to inform the APS community about a national cybersecurity breach. It involved PowerSchool, which is our student information system provider. That is the sort of core database that we use. It includes our schedules, it includes all of the student information we gather at registration, and was involved in a data breach that involved us as well as many other districts across the Commonwealth, many other districts across the country, and millions of users. This breach occurred in late December. We were notified yesterday afternoon. As at this point, it's the day before yesterday afternoon. PowerSchool confirmed that there was unauthorized access to their systems that compromised data for, like I said, potentially millions of users. We've been investigating the extent of that and its impact. What we know right now, or what we're pretty confident of based on what we've been able to learn from PowerSchool and then dive into our system to understand what would have been exported by the actors, is that demographic information was accessed. That includes name, address, phone number for current and former students, families, and staff. That license information for staff was also accessed, and we're working to understand what some of the ramifications of that might be and what some of the protections we might want that we might want to put in. We initially didn't think that very much staff information was accessed. In fact, some of the same stuff that was accessed for students and families was also accessed for staff. So we'll be getting some information out as soon as we can about that. Information is no longer able to be accessed. Right now, PowerSchool servers are being monitored for threats. This is assurance that we have from PowerSchool And they have also contracted with a third-party cybersecurity vendor who is doing that monitoring and was able to secure the data. They have assured us that information's been deleted that was accessed, but we're still recommending proceeding with caution because I think you can't, it's hard to have a guarantee that information that was accessed wasn't copied, isn't being stored somewhere else. More sensitive information did get accessed for a very limited number of students who graduated before 2016, and we identified data practices that have been in existence then, almost 10 years ago, that are no longer in place. So we'll be doing individual outreach with those few situations in which more sensitive information was accessed. And the nature of the data that's accessed is very consistent with attacks that intend to conduct identity theft and phishing attempts. So we have every reason to believe that the purpose of this is to then conduct scams meant to get you to divulge financial information or to sort of make you believe that they are someone else in order to get you to click on a link or something like that. And so a lot of the same practices we teach around don't click on a link that isn't from someone you know is the way to respond to this. But we are getting advice from Power School on an ongoing basis. We've been in meetings, the data teams was in meetings with them for a good portion of today, and we're working on a communication to go out on Monday that will include what we've learned with a little more detail, even than this. This is more detail than I was able to give yesterday. And then we'll have some more details on Monday about exactly what was accessed and what we would recommend folks do or look out for. In the meantime, all of the things that we have been taught and are very careful about are the same practices we would recommend. Don't give out information to somebody you don't know. Don't click on a link when you're not certain of its sender or it's not expected. And then we'll also be talking with our internal staff to make sure that any checks that we're doing against identity are very thorough, that we don't give out information. If somebody were to email us and say, you know, here's some of my information, I need to change this about how my paycheck's coming to me, that we absolutely would not use that. You would need to come in, you would need to provide valid proof of identity in order for us to make any adjustments, because that's one of the ways that some of these scams get perpetuated. So we'll be working with our staff to make sure that's communicated as well. I'm happy to answer. Actually, I'm going to pause on this because I imagine there could be questions and answer any questions that folks might have.
Questions on this point? Seeing none, continue.
We will be having a budget community forum on January 21st of this month from 7 to 8 p.m. It will be live in the Discourse Lab here at the high school, and it's being hosted by the Arlington School Committee, the Budget Subcommittee, and myself. And our goal is to talk with folks about how the Arlington Public Schools are funded by the town, how the town appropriation happens with us, in partnership with us, and how the budget is created, what's being considered as priorities for next year. So we'll share a little bit of what all of you just shared with us, and we'll have a question and answer period at the end. This is part of our goal for this year, to do a little bit more discussion with the community about how our budget is developed, and have the opportunity to speak with stakeholders about what it is that they're thinking about when it comes to budgets, and have the opportunity to educate them about how we go about budget planning. So participants are welcome to attend in person or stream via Zoom. The Zoom will not be interactive because it's a little difficult to manage hybrid, but we will have an ability to submit questions in advance. We'll send a link out for that with a reminder next week. And if you want to access online, there's a QR code there on the screen, and you can register at the QR code. We will be sending some reminders out next week. We will also be posting this on social media for anybody who's interested, and we hope to see folks there on the 21st. We have a kindergarten registration launch date that we're targeting for February 3rd. We're looking forward to opening kindergarten registration. We will get notice out to the full community ahead of that date, and we will also be having a opportunity for families to learn about the kindergarten registration process in late January with a forum for families where they can ask any questions that they have about required documentation, about the process, about how to get help doing your registration at one of our school sites, or here in the Welcome Center. So we're looking forward to kindergarten registration and getting everybody registered as quickly as we can. And just a reminder that families who are looking at after-school registration times, we launch after-school registration after kindergarten registration, and we do a first round of buffer zone assignments so that you can know if you register quickly what buffer zone you're in, if you're in one of the buffer zones, before you submit your after-school application. So we'll be sending a lot of information out about all of that over the next several weeks. We will be having a Lunar New Year celebration at Arlington High School on Saturday, January 25th, which is very exciting. It's the first time we've done this. There are activities from 4 to 6 and a performance from 6 to 8 p.m., and it is free and open to all on that Saturday. We hope to see you there, that you can join us. We're looking forward to a move of our transportation department, who's currently housed in Downs, which is being knocked down, so they need to move. They'll be moving to 27 Maple Street. We had originally thought that we might move our payroll team there, and we were hoping to have the transportation team here on site in anticipation of maybe trying to figure out a new place for our transportation fleet. But that is probably a little ways down the road, and our transportation team was gracious enough to say that they'd love to join their town colleagues over at 27 Maple Street. So we will be moving them and keeping our payroll team here. That move will happen by the week of January 20th. I want to thank our facilities team for a very quick turnaround of renovations to those new office spaces. They've done a great job, and they were very responsive in getting some work done to refurbish some spaces over at 27 Maple. And also thank you to Furniture Trust in Arlington for donated furniture that is in great shape and is going to work great for our transportation team. We've made several website navigation updates. If you go to the district website, you might notice that everything doesn't look like it's quite in the same place. The drop-downs have changed and have some sort of subcategories within them as well. There's also a notice there that asks for your feedback. If you're having trouble finding something, please tell us, because we will find it and move it so that it's easy for you to find on the website. We're trying to make it so that everybody doesn't need to use the search feature to find everything on the website. We'd really like it if it was intuitive and easy to find. So if you have feedback for us, if there's something that isn't accessible for you to, on your phone or on whatever device you're using, please fill out that form. The communications specialist is monitoring it, and we'll make adjustments in real time. So we're really grateful for everybody's patience and feedback as we've streamlined and made more accessible the district website. We do have one administrative hiring search I wanted to update everybody on. Our middle school special education coordinator got a new opportunity to work a little closer to home, and that she is excited about, and so we have opened up a search for middle school special education coordinator. There are requests for a little bit of restructuring of the coordinator role in the budget, and pending some of the discussion around budget over the next several weeks, it is possible that we would consider doing an early restructure of that, so that we could make the role attractive potentially to candidates, or that we could put a couple different postings up to see what sorts of candidates we got. So we're exploring the possibility of fast forwarding some of the requests, but only if they were to be approved as part of the budget or compelling to members of the committee before we did anything with that. And then finally, your enrollments are in your packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Mr. Carden?
Do we have someone acting in that coordinator role?
What is the final, at what point are we vacant? Are we vacant now? Tomorrow? Yeah. So it's been posted, but is not filled, and we don't have very many applicants for it.
Right, but when like an assistant principal or a similar level position is vacant, we usually find somebody to serve as acting in many cases.
Well, right, but we haven't moved a current staff, because then we'd have that vacancy.
Yeah.
And we don't have applicants for an acting. So right now we're reassigning evaluation caseloads to administrators that are in the building, or to other administrators who have the room in a caseload. I mean, nobody has really room in a caseload. So our goal is to get that filled with an interim or permanent as soon as we can, but we would need applicants to do it. At the moment, we don't, that I know of, have someone to move up without creating a critical vacancy then in their absence.
Mr. Thielman.
I know this is in the report, but do you have any data, maybe Mr. Spiegel, or on open positions in the district, positions we haven't filled?
We have an open, I had it up earlier, vacancy list.
It is shrinking.
Yeah.
We're hiring people. I've hired a couple people today. So there's we can get what it is. I wasn't prepared for that.
No, I know it wasn't, I didn't think about it until.
But
We can include it in the next update.
I think it's not a bad thing to put in the superintendent's report every week, every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number of positions that are unfilled, that sort of thing, and what they are at a high level, you know.
Anyone else?
Something my board makes me do, so.
Seems like a valid request.
Well, it's,
Anyone else under superintendent's reports? Seeing none, we move on to consent agenda. Of course, the text is in paper. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the committee so requests, in which event the item will be considered in its normal sequence. Warrant 25156, dated January 9th, 2025, in the amount of $1,007,219.24, plus the draft minutes for the meeting of December 19th, 2024. Motion by Mr. Carden, who was scratching his ear.
Yes.
So moved. Second by Mr. Thielman.
Second by Mr. Thielman. I saw the hand move,
So
so
moved.
you got tagged. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed, abstained, that is a unanimous 6-0 vote. Subcommittee liaison reports, budget, Dr. Allison Ampe.
Nothing to report. We'll be scheduling a meeting in the next week or two. I'm working with the superintendent to decide the best timing.
Okay, community relations, I'm told they'll be meeting next week,
Wednesday at 6:45.
Wednesday at 6:45.
I think it's Wednesday.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's long.
that's
Well,
the,
Yes.
that's the rumor I heard,
It's
Wednesday.
at 6:45.
Yes. CIAA, Ms. Morgan.
Oh, gosh, we're meeting next Friday, apparently, although maybe that's,
A week from Friday? Or this Friday?
I mean, we're meeting on the 17th at 3
Okay, on the
o'clock.
17th,
And we'll
yeah.
see who's there, because
Yeah, we will.
rescheduling for that crowd is really challenging. So we will be at 3 o'clock on Friday, talking about the things we talked about earlier tonight. So come one, come all. Bring your questions, or send them to me in advance. And this, I think it's important to say that this adding of talking, I mean, yes, we would have had to talk about the competency determinations at CIAA anyway this year, given the decision of the voters, but we have added a review of the program of studies in CIAA as part of our process to ensure that some of the things that have happened over like 3 of the last 5 years, we have a little bit more time. We're not, under so much pressure. So I hope people come or they send things to us, because it's a whole lot easier to deal with the program of studies before we actually take our vote. So come one, come all. Good times.
Facilities, Mr. Thielman.
We met yesterday, we talked about the tech and space plan. The subcommittee is going to review the tech and space plan when it's a little more developed. We got a good interim report of the progress being made and their focus. And then it's going to come before the committee. It's one of our strategic goals for the year. It's part of the strategic plan, rather. It's one of the objectives of the strategic plan. And I think we agreed that the committee would receive it, review it, talk about it in a meeting, and then accept the report. That would probably be the protocol that we would follow, unless the committee wanted another protocol.
I think she said adopt.
Adopt.
I did say adopt.
You did, okay, we'll adopt it, yeah. We'll adopt the plan. And then we talked about the SOI for the Addison. That's a document that has to be reviewed and approved or voted by this committee. We have to vote to authorize the superintendent to submit a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority for the Addison Middle School. And so the subcommittee is going to meet again sometime in late February to review a draft that'll go before the committee prior to the deadline with the MSBA, which is in April. Bob Jefferson, the interim director of facilities, was at the meeting, and we went through a lot of all the capital projects that were happening. It was a good summary. He's getting a lot done. So we were impressed by Bob. He's just like getting stuff done. He's like, it's great. And he talked about the MSBA as doing a survey that every 3 years they do a survey of all the facilities in each of the districts in the state, all the schools. And so he and the superintendent are meeting with them to answer questions. And I can't think of anything else. That's it.
Can I just make a comment? Two comments on that.
Mr. Carden.
I wasn't able to speak during the meeting, so.
I called on you 5 times.
I know, I couldn't speak. I was at work.
Something was, you were doing dishes or something.
Yeah, no, I was at work. So.
You work in the kitchen?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know.
So first, the report from Mr. Jefferson was very positive. He's gotten a lot of work done that we didn't know about. So walls went up, offices have been built in several schools. So look at the report if you weren't at the meeting, because it's good to see, and it's sad that things were waiting for so long. But anyways, he made really good progress while he was here. And then you were talking about the SOI. It does require select board approval. It says so right on their website. So talk with whoever the current chair is about when they want to do that and how they want to do that. I think Finance Committee has been involved in the past before we submitted an SOI. I don't know, but I think it's a very short time to get sort of people on board. So.
I think you're right about the select board. If that's what it says, that's what it says. But I don't recall us going before the Finance Committee in 2014.
We did. We took Finance Committee around for tours because we knew we had to get them on board and get them to understand.
Yeah, not a formal vote.
But it wasn't a formal vote. It was,
right. Not a formal vote.
We actually had a tour and a pamphlet that we handed them.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Yeah, and we did that for them and the select board, and I think school committee came along too for the laughs. But that was the high school. I don't know.
All right, so we're going to have to, okay, thank you. The subcommittee is going to meet again, maybe sooner than late February, to talk about all this. And Dr. Homan's working on a draft of the SOI, so we'll figure out a plan. And we meet Monday, the superintendent and I to figure it out. Okay, thank you. Good.
Excellent. Policies and procedures, Mr. Carden.
So we're meeting on the 24th to review the public speaking policy. There was a proposal for a greener school department. I don't have the official name. That we'll be looking at. There are some other matters that we'll be thinking about. As part of our regular review, I assigned 2 portions of the policy manual to review. So if people have, I forget what letters they were, I think J and K, I don't know. But anyways, our subcommittee members, if they have issues, we will start any changes that are necessary in those portions of the policy manual. Yes, go ahead.
So one thing I noticed, so we did this whole big revamp of our policies. They didn't put dates in for anything, and we really should have a date revised for all the policies so we know when the last time we did something with it is. So that's, I mean, I don't know if we could just go.
That today. I thought they were, and many, I don't know.
I didn't see, I haven't seen any.
It may be the system that they're using, the link, the stuff with links. I don't know. I'll look into it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
If you can also look into KI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is the one we have to reapprove every 2 years?
Enrollment, the district,
I don't remember. There's something we're statutorily required to reapprove every 2 years, and I don't remember which one.
I don't remember what that was off the top of my head, but we can certainly do a research.
Open enrollment or allowing.
We have to do the enrollment policy, the school choice every year. But there's another one. There's
It's every
other
2 years.
funky one that we got dinged on a year ago for not reviewing and redating.
Right.
That was the bullying policy, maybe.
Is that the bullying
Oh,
policy?
yeah, I think it might be bullying.
I think you're right. That's what it was.
Yeah, so we just need to be sure we're updated on that.
Yeah.
We're up to date.
Or have a record of it when we, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we need to do it again.
Arlington High School Building Committee, Mr. Thielman.
The Arlington High School Building Committee project, which began, their discussions began in 2013 when the NEASC report did a number on the high school as part of the accreditation, is in, we know its final year. And so Phase 3 will be opening the gym, the black box theater, the outdoor theater, outdoor amphitheater will open right after February break, and we'll arrange for a time for this committee to come and see it, probably sometime in March. And we're on target for a completion of the project by Labor Day, the whole project by Labor Day.
So that means all demolition, all site work, all construction activity off the site by Labor Day.
Fields and everything? Wow.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan. I mean, if there's developments, Dr. Allison Ampe and I will report it. And if I forget something, she'll chime in.
Yeah, like now.
Like right now.
Dr. Allison.
So there won't be any kind of an opening ceremony for
Right,
this
yeah.
one because it's too close to when we're going to do the big ribbon cutting with the MSBA. So we're just waiting.
When are we doing that?
We don't have a date
In the
yet.
fall.
In the fall,
Yeah.
okay.
In the fall.
Right. But we will see it, but you guys will, everyone on this committee will get to see the new wing soon enough.
Any question on why the chargers on Schiller Court have been down for 2 months?
I asked,
Superintendent.
I asked about it recently. I will go find that email and send it to you. It was before the break. But the building project had a reason. I don't remember what it was. But I have inquired about it.
Okay. My car's hungry. Liaison reports. Any liaison reports? Any announcements? Any future agenda items? No executive session. We will entertain a motion to adjourn from Mr. Carden. Moved. Second by Mr. Thielman.
Second.
Who loves to second things. All in favor?
I do.
Yes.
Opposed? That's unanimous. 6-0. We are adjourned at 8:13 p.m.
ACMi productions are only made possible with your support. Visit patreon.com/ACMi to learn how you can help.